whoever the better team might not even matter because at the end of the day, I take this game personally, or my team takes this game personally. We might just be the one that we might come in with the energy to come out on top, and that is part of the upset. Like you didn't respond. Like some teams can't respond. It's like if another team come in on the energy, hit them in the mouth early, they kind of crumble at that point, or they lose that momentum, let the game slip away. That's an upset. Like you didn't bounce back when you needed to, and that's all it really is at the end of the day. So that's why I say like when something's on the line, it's very possible to get upset.
Yo, everybody, welcome in to the BeBall Jones podcast. The man, defensive player of the year himself, Nelson Haskell. What's going on, bro?
I'm good, bro. How you doing?
I'm good, man. Just taking it one day at a time, bro. That's really trying to be my thing right now. Just moving in gratitude and taking everything one day at a time, man. So that's where I'm at right now.
I feel that. I feel that.
But I feel like, certain fans and certain teams aren't allowed to take things one day at a time. I've been watching Lakers a little bit this season, talking to a couple people here and there, and the Lakers is championship or bust every year. I don't care what type of team they got, they championship or bust. And of course, when you got a team with LeBron James on there, that championship or bust regardless. Now you got them two combined. That's ultimate championship or bust. Now you got them two combined with Carmelo, with Anthony Davis, with Russell Westbrook, and the plethora of players they have around them. And I just feel like, we look at them as like this team that's just up there. They're supposed to be invincible. But I just seen them getting whooped a couple times this year, man. They getting blown out, and it's kind of ugly, man. Like they getting upset a lot, and it's crazy to see how talented they are, but they're not meshing well together, man. So, what are your thoughts on like the Lakers right now, a little bit?
Uh, I feel like they taking time to jail. As most new teams do. Because I mean, nobody on their starting lineup was a Laker last year except for LeBron and AD, and so it's taking them some time to adjust and get things rolling. But I mean, at the same time, I feel like it's regular season. They're gonna lose some games. They might not be the number one seed like most people, like many people probably thought they were gonna be, but it's still they gonna be in the mix. I mean, when playoff time comes, they're gonna be in the mix. So
I was kind of thinking that too, man. It's like for one, they started off the season super slow because, which like you said, most of the team is new, and they had a lot of injuries. Like almost half the team, or at least a quarter of the team, wasn't even there. And so it's like people trying to jump to be like, oh, they should be going out from the jump and just like going crazy. But it's like there's too many factors. I don't want to go down a list of like why a slow start should not be surprising for that team. But like the expectation of them was so high. And just kind of getting into what I want to talk about today, it's like they're losing to a lot of teams that we feel like they shouldn't be losing to. And it's, basically called an upset. And we kind of talked about this one day, but I want to, bring it to the podcast. Like, is there really a such thing as an upset in basketball? Because, we all hear that all the time. Oh, this team got upset by this sorry team over here. But it's like, is there really a upset in basketball?
um, I'm gonna say yes and no, and I'll explain. So yes, there's an upset in basketball when there's something on the line. I feel like the upset comes in, like championships, playoff spots, anything like that. When there's something on the line, then yes, there's a such thing as an upset. Because if you're the favorite team or the true quote unquote better team, then you expected to beat certain people at those junctions. Like um, for example, like Steph and the Warriors last year played played the Grizzlies for the last spot in the playoffs in the play-in tournament. Remember? So a lot of people thought the Warriors were gonna win. They still got Steph Curry, Draymond, no Clay and things like that, and a lot of other young players. But Steph was having a great season, and they was playing the Grizzlies, who was the ninth seed, who in a normal year would not have made the playoffs. So the Warriors were naturally favored, and then they lost. And I feel like that's an upset because you had the quote unquote better team, and you had the better player. Or you had the best player in that game. You had the best player on your team in that game, and you got the more experience on your team because that's a young Grizzlies team who had never been to the playoffs. So when there's something at stake, then yeah, there is a such thing as an upset. But when there's nothing at stake, then no, I don't think so. And like when you the favorite team in a game in basketball, that doesn't really mean anything other than you probably have better natural players than that other team. But that's not like things just change. You know what I'm saying? And basketball is a long season. It's not like football where we play one game a week. So every week we have to put our best foot forward and like we have to win this game every week. In basketball, you play 3, 4, 5 games a week. So you're gonna lose some of those games. The reason why the Bulls are 72-10 and not 82-0. And it's a reason that Warriors team a couple years ago went 73-9, not 82-0. Like nobody's winning every game. But that Warriors team, that Bulls team, the LeBron Miami Heat team, the Shaq and Kobe Lakers team, like teams with like more star power are gonna be favored almost every night. But nobody's winning all of their games. That's just what it is. Like basketball, the flow of the game can change too fast, and players are too good on a night in, night out basis to just assume that you're gonna win every night. So that's kind of my take on it. So what do you think? Like, what's your opinion on if there are upsets not in basketball?
I'm kind of like you. I'm saying yes and no, but my reasoning is a little bit different. I would have to say that the reason why there aren't upsets is because you have the better team on paper or the more talented team doesn't mean that you should beat this other team because you're quote unquote better, because it's all about the matchups. You feel me? So there's a lot of times where a seventh team has beat a second seed team just because of the matchups favor them, because the way our style of play is better suited against this team. Now we could have played the third seed or the first seed and we got killed, but the second seed team was just the perfect matchup for us to upset them, supposedly. So that's kind of where I lie on that. But and then sometimes it's like just because they have a more talented team on paper doesn't mean they're actually a good team. Like they don't actually mesh well. Like I said, going back to the Lakers, like they haven't had a chance to mesh well because Westbrook doesn't know how to play with LeBron yet. He doesn't know how to play with AD. He could, like, really, my idea and theory how they should play is different from what they're actually doing. I'm not saying I know anything better. I'm not an NBA coach for a reason. You know, they getting paid all this money to do their job, so I ain't trying to tell them how to do their job. I just have my ideas. But there's a reason why, like you said before, there's a reason why there's no undefeated teams in the NBA. Like, because the ebbs and flow of the season, ebbs and flow of games are so fickly to where you start out the first quarter hot, next thing you know, you cold the next 3 quarters and you lose a game. And it's hard for you to be locked in for 82 games. It's like if we were more like the NFL, we played a lot less games, then I'm pretty sure you see a lot more undefeated seasons because it's a lot easier for you to be locked in for 30 games if you're in the NBA or 50 games if you're in the NBA because it's a lot less. So the output that I have to have mentally, emotionally, and physically is not as taxing as the 82. And kind of like you said before, nothing's on the line. So like regular season, you're mentally going to slip away during a game or two. So that's why it's so special to see both of those teams go for that record. And then even the teams that had like 66, 67 wins, that's so impressive because you're locked in enough to where you're winning pretty much, I don't know the ratio of it, but you're basically winning like every 6 or 7 games to every 1 game you lose. So it's like, that means you're locked in 10 times more than you're not. And even if you're not as locked in, my talent or whatever just overpowers to where we still squeeze out this win. Because it's a lot of games that the Bulls and Warriors should have lost, but they won by a nail biter or they won by some lucky call, some lucky this, some lucky that. So that's why I say like upsets aren't a real thing. But at the same time, you have seen certain teams that was just like, not even matchup wise, it made sense for them to win because you just do it. So it's like when the playoffs comes, it's hard for me to say it's an upset because you got 4 to 7 chances to play this team and win. So it's like if I beat you 4 to 7 between 4 and 7 games, it's not an upset at that point. Like I've legit earned this win against you. Now you can look at details of a player's missing here and there, or this player was hurt, all that stuff. That's one thing. But my straight up roster versus your straight up roster, and we beat you guys between 4 to 7 games, it's not an upset. You know what I mean? So it's like I'll just outright beat you. You feel me? So that's a little bit different. But regular season, maybe, that's one thing, but postseason, a whole nother thing. So that's kind of where I stand on it. I don't say it's not an upset. I don't say it is an upset. So it's like maybe by the end of the podcast, I can give a better answer, but that's just where my mindset is right now.
I mean, I feel that. Yeah, like you said, I kind of agree with you with that. With what you said about the playoffs, because in the NBA there's a 7-game series. So if I win in 7 games, then I'm probably the better team. So that makes sense. But when you look at it on other bases, like college basketball, ain't no 7-game series. It's one and done every round. So any given night, guys are talented, and so any given night somebody can get hot and excuse me, and go on streaks and whatnot. So that could change the whole flow of the game. And like anybody capable of beating you once, I feel like.
Yeah.
So that's why I would have to say there's no such thing as an upset when there ain't nothing in the state. But there's still, but in the game of college basketball, definitely, there's definitely such thing as an upset because if like Duke right now, who I want to say as we speak is number 1 in the top 25, if they go in the NCAA tournament and they lose to, let's say, Alabama, who ranked like 15, I want to say, that's an upset. Like, and yeah, anybody's capable of beating you once, but when you're the higher touted team, when push comes to shove and things are expected of you, if you don't show up, that's an upset. It is. Even if it's a close game, if it's a nail biter, or even if Alabama won by a buzzer beater or something like that, it's still an upset because in the eye of the public, you would consider the better team with the better roster, and so therefore you should have won. And so that's how we're gonna look at it. So yeah, even though anybody's capable of beating you once, when all the marbles are in, like whoever the better team is supposed to win the game. And that's just the way it is. Now, if it's the number 1 seed versus number 2 seed or number 3 seed or something like that, then that I feel like we can kind of scrap the whole upset thing. But anytime like there's a good like gap between ratings or rankings, that's the way. Yeah. Anytime there's a good gap between rankings, then we gotta call it an upset at that point. Like if you the number 1 seed and you losing to number 12, 13, 14 plus, it's been upset. So that's how I see it.
So think about it in terms of like, you go around with travel ball, right? And you're gonna see there's 1 or 2 teams, they got number guards, and he might have 1 or 2 wings, and he probably like 6'4", 6'5", maybe 6'6". He ain't no real big. He's really a wing. You feel me? So
Right.
you already know what you get from that team. Scrappy from the press and trap all game.
Full court press.
Full court press the whole time. You already know what's gonna happen. Like we all know this. This is part of just understanding with the game that we all know. And so you see them going against another team that's stacked. They got a legit point guard, legit 2, 3, 4, 5, decent bench, all that stuff. But not the underdog team, but like the smaller team, the undersized team, their game plan is just to tire you out. Their game plan is to play to their strength. They're going to speed you up. Now the other team is a better team. They have a better stacked team, but during this matchup right here, you're a slower team. You're used to getting to the half court sets. We're speeding you up. So now the matchup is in our favor because we're able to speed you guys up. And now you're not able to play to your strengths because our matchup is winning your matchup. Right? So like I said, the game is literally all about matchups. It doesn't matter how good you are. If the matchup favors me, then can I really call it an upset? You know what I mean? Because like you said, any given night, anybody can lose. Like any of those Bulls game or Warriors game, it's just a loss. Sometimes it's like, hey, we ain't got it this night. It's 82 games. It's hard for you to have it every single night. So like, is it really an upset if I just didn't have it this night and that match didn't favor me? Because I'm pretty sure there's a team that might have got them if they played 3 times. They lost to that team twice because of the matchup. Like there's nothing Jordan could have done. Well, not Jordan, but nothing though that Jordan Bulls could have done against that matchup that time because they just had the number. Like everybody, I don't care who that. Every single player has had some player that just had their number. Every single team has had some team that's had that number. Like, hey, we lucky we had to play on a 7-game series because we probably took that L. Like every team has that. And so it's like, it's not the fact that you're a better team, it's just the matchup favored me. So because the matchup is in my favor and I'm a quote unquote lesser team or less talented team, that doesn't really make it an upset as much in my mind because the matchup favors me. And I just know how to get to my matchup better than you are. So like if you're a slow down half court team, double down to the big, or you're gonna double down on the big, make sure he's uncomfortable the whole time. But you're a better big. Your big is killing us because he has the post game. We're playing against Kareem Abdul-Jabbar. Like we're supposed to lose this matchup. He's 7-2. Like what do you expect? He's playing against Dirk. Like we're supposed to lose this matchup. We're playing against KG. But we're double down on him, making him uncomfortable, speeding the game up so where he's irrelevant. So the matchup that you should have is not relevant because his talent can't even show now. So did we upset you guys? Maybe. But our matchup is really what pushed it to where it's like you can't even be talented because we took you out of your talent. You know what I mean? So that's where in my mind it's like upsets aren't as much of a thing because on any given night somebody can lose. And then sometimes you do deal with those matchups where it's just like that team in that matchup has your number.
And you right about that. Like basketball is a game of matchups, and that can have a huge impact on the game is whether or not we match up well with this team or not. But in the grand scheme of things, if you are considered the better team, like you're considered the better overall team, then you're supposed to be able to make that adjustment. Like with the example that you gave with the small team, the small travel ball team that's go full court press the whole time. So they might play a team that's like trying to get in the half court and like play the half court game that's a bad matchup for them because they speed them up. But at the same time, I mean, I hate to be a coach right here, but like you a good half court team and a full court press speeding you up, you can't get into your offense. That's bad coaching. Number one, either you can't break a press. Not to say that the press ain't good because I'm sure it is because that's just the way they play and they probably super fast. We know all seen them type of teams. But number one, either you can't break a press, or number two, when you broke the press, you tried too hard to score as soon as you did, instead of just running the offense like you're supposed to, or like you're good at. So that either way, that's coaching at the end of the day. So if you're the better team, that would also involve having a better coach or having a coach good enough to coach that team. You know what I'm saying? But like you said, though, it happens like where you have bad matchups. Like I'll give you an example. So my sophomore year at Bevel State, right? So anybody that know anything about Alabama JUCO basketball, Alabama JUCO basketball conference called the ACCC, Alabama Community College Conference. So anybody know anything about it knows that State in Tuscaloosa, best team in the conference. Like Stillman State has been nationally ranked in boys and girls. Nationally ranked with like other teams in the surrounding conferences. Like, and they won like the last like three or four conference titles in a row. Like They like the Kentucky of our conference, the Kentucky of basketball and the SEC. They like that in our conference, or Alabama and the SEC in football. So, but so sophomore year, very big. Their whole team was big and they could shoot. That was their thing. They had a starting center like 6'10", dude playing power forward like 6'8", and another 6'8" coming in behind him. And then they had like 6'4", 6'5" wings, 6'7" wings that could shoot. So they were a big team, but they also had shooting. That made them very hard to compete against because like not only could they shoot and score, but they also could defend, and it was hard to score on them because they had so much size. So naturally, they number one in our conference at the time, but they played us my sophomore year, and we was at home. My team, my sophomore year, small. Okay, I'm starting at the 5, as I always have. I'm 6'7", about 190 at this time. My starting at the 4 technically, and then my partner in crime, Martez, starting at the 5. He's about 6'9", so that's cool. Now after us, 3 starters went 6 foot, 5'10", 5'9". Behind us, we had another guy come in playing power forward, 6'4". In height, nobody else over maybe 6'2" and so so naturally on paper, it's like a bad matchup, right?
Yep.
Like they're huge, we're small, we should not be able to beat them, right? So we play. They come to Belleville, we play at home. And I'm like, everything I got, like everything. Like I'm trying my best to win. You know, this is a team that I take personal. A matchup I take personal. I want to beat them because they're considered the best. And you know, that's just the type of player I am. I want to rise to the occasion. The thing was, this particular night they could not make shots. They were not making their threes. I don't know if it was just part of being in our gym or what it was, but they were not making shots. So the game is very close. So end up game tied. They go for a last. They had the ball. They missed their last second opportunity. I mean, their last possession opportunity. We get the board. Ball. Game still tied. We get the ball to our best player. He make a move, pump fake. Guy jumps into him. He go to the line, make both free throws. We win the game. Win by 2. Upset. That's an upset. Sorry to tell you. Like, we were not supposed to win that game. We scrapped and we played defense and we stayed solid the whole time and we ended up winning by 2. But then we go to Shelton a week and a half later, go down there, and let's just say they was making shots. And the outcome was not the same. So we lost that one. That's my point is though, anybody can beat you any given night. But at the same time, considered a better team, you're supposed to be able to make that adjustment and win that game when something's on the line. And so that was a conference game, so something was on the line, technically. Like in basketball in college, all conference games, something's on the line. Because, you know, you talking about playing for seeding and tournament placement now. So all conference games, something is on the line. You going all out every one of those games. So that is an upset at the end of the day because we weren't supposed to beat them. But yeah, they weren't making shots, but they were the favorite matchup. Like they were supposed to beat us. Bigger, quote unquote, more talented from top to bottom. They got more. They just got more. They're loaded. Like they reload every year with more players. They got D1 transfers, people who transfer from 4 years down to JUCO to play for them. They got what it takes, you know what I'm saying? But we came to play, we sat down, we were solid, and we won the game. And that's how it goes sometimes. Sometimes you the bug, sometimes you the windshield. So it's just any given night you got to be ready. When some on the line, like don't let it be you. Like my sister comes up, he say that all the time. Don't let it be you. Like don't be the one to get upset. If you favored, make sure that you show them why you were favored.
That's a good story.
I've been through a lot of things now. I've been on great teams, quote unquote great teams, and I've been on quote unquote bad teams. So I've been the bug and I've been the windshield. So I know how it is. But you know, you got that one night where it's like, yeah, this is the better team. They're a better team than us, but like for some reason, like we up for this one. Like you might just be up for this game. And I feel like, you know, maybe that's how certain guys was when they played the Warriors. Maybe that's how certain people was when they played the 72-10 Bulls. And I feel like you probably have games like that. Like, you know how people say when you play a good team, like when you're a good team or like when you have a certain player, a certain star, they say we got a target on our back every night. And that's kind of how some people get approached. Like when you that guy or that team in the league, wherever that might be, whether you might be in junior college or playing in the NBA, like certain guys and certain teams just have a target on their back that we might just get up for. So I feel like, you know, like Celtics get up for the Lakers, or they have in the past. Like, I feel like Steph get up to play Damian Lillard. Damian Lillard get up to play Pat Beverly. Like, or Pat Beverly get up to play Dame, maybe I should say. Things of that nature. So whoever the better team might not even matter, because at the end of the day, if I take this game personally or my team takes this game personally, we might just be the one that we might come in with the energy to come out on top. And that is part of the upset. Like you didn't respond. Like some teams can't respond. It's like if another team come out with the energy, hit them in the mouth early, they kind of crumble at that point, or they lose that momentum, let the game slip away. That's an upset. Like you didn't bounce back when you needed to, and that's all it really is at the end of the day. So that's why I say, like, when something's on the line, it's very possible to get upset.
So think about it like this. One point I want to say is that when you're talking about matchups again, right? There's always a counterpunch to every punch that happens. Like
exactly,
whatever your strength is, there's a counter to it. So if you're big, you're big and strong. I might be slower. I mean, if you're bigger and stronger, I might be smaller, but I can be faster. If you're faster, I might be bigger and stronger. If you're taller, I'm short. Like there's a counter to everything. There's an advantage to disadvantage to everything. And so just because this team is better on paper, like I said before, a certain team might have the right mix and right whatever to beat this team. Going back to the We Believe Warriors, right? They had the right mix of everything to make sure they had the upset against the Mavericks. Like on paper, the Mavericks, they were the best team. They had MVP Dirk. I think that was an MVP year, but they were running through everybody. The regular season, it was like, oh, this is the year for the Mavs. They were the number 2 seed, I believe. And everybody was like, yo, this might be the year the Mavs win it. They going all the way, whatever. We Believe Warriors came in and just took care of them boys and sent them home. Baron Davis with the historic dunk. I think the next series he had against the Jazz, that was that year against Andre Karolinko. He caught back and just destroyed that man's life and career. That was that year. That was that team. And so it's really about matchups, man. It's like when it comes down to it, just because you're the most talented team in paper, there's a chink in your armor somewhere. And it's always going to be a team or a coach that know how to manipulate that chink in your armor. So it's like, if I have the advantage there, I know how to manipulate it to where on paper you're supposed to win, but now I found the right equation to fix this one hole that you have that you're not able to fix. Like every team is capable of being beat. I don't care how great you are. There's no team with no weaknesses. Like it's just impossible. Like I don't even care what sport you're talking about. Like everybody has a weakness that can be manipulated into where you can lose. And so sticking with basketball, like you said, on paper, Shelton is the better team. On paper, That Warriors team was the best team. That Bulls team was the best team. The Heat team was the best team. But on paper, you should go 82-0. On paper, there's no reason why you should lose. But when you add the human factor of it, it's literally impossible. I don't care how great you are. Like, you going back to back so many times on back to backs, you're gonna be up to it. You might try to get up to it mentally, you up to it, but physically, your body just can't perform that night. Like, your knees ain't there, man. Like, your legs are shot. You didn't did whatever. Like, or emotionally, you might have gone through something. And it's like, I understand there's a level of professionalism, but you're still human at the end of the day. Like, I don't care what Jordan did. There was some nights where he just didn't have it. You know what I mean? Like, he missed the shots. You know what I mean? There's a human component to that, to where you're going to lose. Like, the odds of you winning every single game is 0. That's not going to happen. This isn't 2K. This isn't we just go in scramble mode, not scramble, but you automate the game and it just blow through the teams, because that's what's supposed to happen. If things were supposed to happen and it's supposed to win, then there's no point of having the games at all. Like, they're supposed to be the games played, because there's the human element of it. So if I catch fire that night and y'all the better team and we're taking y'all best hit and we still come out, that would be more of an upset rather than like in your story, right? So Shelton didn't play their best game. If Shelton played their best game and y'all came around to beat them, then I could say, oh snap, they really upset them boys, because they took their best hit and still overcame that and won. That would have been a bigger up. That would have been more of an upset in my mind versus they played their BC game and they got beat. Now, if they came out, if Kentucky came out with the best 10 that they put out in the draft and they manipulated to where it was actually a good fit GM wise and like they know how to play together, and they got beat and they were playing their game, oh, that's an upset. But how often do you see a great team play their game and lose to a lower ranked seed? Rarely, if ever. And if they do, it's because the matchup was there. So that's why I say upset isn't as much of a real thing, because like you're not going to play your best game and lose against a bad team or a lesser team. Now, like you said before, if it's a 1 seed, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 4 seed, then that's just the good team playing with a good team 9 times out of 10. But when you're actually a better seed, more talented seed, and you take that and you give your best hit and you still lose against a lower ranked team, that's more of an upset. But you never see that happen. Rarely do you see that happen. If they do, because I got somebody on my team got hurt, somebody on my team got foul trouble, or somebody was off. So it's like 9 times out of 10, you get a best punch from the better team and you still come out on top and you beat them. That's an upset. But how often do you really see that upset happening? I don't know, man. So,
but I'm saying, like, the other team can't dictate what your best punch is. Like, if y'all were making shots, like you said, it's gonna be nice. You don't hit shots, but when you don't make shots, the defense got to be there. When you're not able to stop the other team, you got to make shots. That's the way it goes. Like, it's a two-way street. So, like I said, in that case against Shell, they didn't make majority of their shots or the many shots they usually would have, and they lost. That's the way basketball works. Like, they didn't make shots, but they did what they wanted to do. Played their game in a way. They had shooters. They shot the ball. They took shots. They like. I mean, I don't remember like what the turnovers and stuff were. Like, I can see if they came out and they just was turning the ball over and taking bad shots. I can see that. But if my memory serves correctly, I don't think that was the case. Like, they played their game. Like, shots didn't fall, and at the end of the game, they fouled our best player, who was also our best free throw shooter, and let him go to the line for 2 points and win the game. And then they didn't have much time on the clock left to try to score and tie it back up. But like, I mean, I get what you're saying. Like, if they were making shots and we still won, then we just got into a scoring battle. That's all that really means. But they weren't making shots, and like, you had to credit some of that to our defense. Like, I want to say I had a good amount of blocks that game too. I can't remember my exact stats. I don't want to lie there. People quickly call you out on some lies about stats. Like, man, this dude swelling up and down. He did this and this and this. You know what I'm saying? Like, I ain't trying to get into that. I don't remember what my stats was, but I had a couple blocks in that game too. But just because they weren't making shots, does not mean I feel. At least in my opinion, that does not mean that was not an upset, or at least it doesn't take away from that at all. Like they did what they wanted to do. Like they played the game that they played, and it just didn't go their way. And that's how I feel. I mean, that's how basketball is sometimes. Like you said, like earlier, like that's the human factor of it. Like they cannot make like statistically, they're not gonna be on every night. Literally, like they're not gonna be hot every night. But they play a game where they take a lot of jump shots. They take a good amount of threes. They have like some good 3-point shooters. But they also had size on the like they had the size factor like playing in their favor too. So yeah, they didn't make shots, but where was the size? Like they could have got rebounds, get the offensive rebounds. Like they are a bigger team, so they should have been able to make that work for them. In my opinion, like if I'm their coach, I'm looking at the B's. Like yeah, we ain't make shots, but doggone, like the 6'7" kid got a double. Y'all 6'10" and 6'9". Like hope y'all are bigger than them. So that's just my opinion on it though. Like, and I'm a little biased because like I said, I got up for the Shell game because I take that game personally because they were the number one team in our conference, and so, but that doesn't mean like that's less of an upset to me because they still played their game, they still did what they do, and the game plan just did not work for them this time around. So, in my opinion, that still is just as much of upset as if they came out there was raining threes and we still won. I get it would have been more impressive though, but still, at the end of the day, in my mind, that's an upset.
That kind of gives me a good question to ask to follow with that. So it's like, would there be levels of upset to where it's like I was saying, so like for me, upset would be like blow for blow, you taking their best hit and you counter with that jump. Like, watch the uppercut, here come with this jab, and it's just like David and Goliath going toe to toe, and I'm going back and forth, back and forth. But some kind of way, the underdog just comes out with that last little blow and just like, hey, it happens. And so it's like, is that the top? Is that really an upset? Is that a top tier upset? Or are the levels to it to where it's like you said for your story, like what's happened with you and Shelton? It's like they were kind of off this game. Like you still had a chance to win it at the end, but we had to, we had the final say so on what happens. So it's like, is that not saying lesser upset to where it's like not to take away from your team. I'm not trying to be disrespectful at all, but like, you know what I'm saying? Like there's levels to the upset. So would you say it's upset or no, or are the levels to it?
There's definitely upset. There's definitely levels to the upset because, like, yeah, I'm making it seem like we just were like not good, but we were still a good team. We made the tournament, made it to the semifinals, before we lost and everything. So I made it seem like we just were not a good team. But my point in telling that story in the story was that was a bad matchup for us, like on paper. So that's why I made it seem that way. But we were not a bad team by any stretch of the imagination. We just were small, and that's just how it was. But there are definitely levels to the upsets. Like if we were just a no-name team, like bottom of the league, not even gonna make the playoffs, and we beat them, that would definitely be way more impressive than the team we actually had. Because we still was I want to say we was third in our league, in our conference, record wise. I know Sheldon was number one, and then it was either us or Lawson who was number 2 and 3. So I can't really remember at this time, but we weren't like the bottom of the barrel at all. So, but if the team that's the bottom of the barrel beats the number 1 seed, that's definitely more impressive than what we did. We just were a bad matchup for them. So we like on paper we should have lost. So let's say, like take what year that was that the Atlanta Hawks. It was about 6-7 years ago. The Atlanta Hawks were number 1 seed in the East, and they had 4 out of their 5 starters were all stars. They had Jeff Teague, they had Kyle Korver, Damari Carroll, Paul Millsap, and Al Horford. So solid star lineup. There was number 1 in the East, and they played LeBron and the Cavaliers, who was number 3 or 4, I want to say. And the Cavaliers beat them, I want to say, in 5 games. Like, no problem. Get them up out of here. That's not really an impressive upset in our mind, because in our mind, we not even taking LeBron for like That's not even an upset in our mind because that's LeBron James on the other team. We kind of expected him to win despite them being the lower seed. But so that's not very impressive in our mind that they did that. Now the 5 games is impressive, but the fact that they beat them is not the most impressive thing to us. But in my mind, if the Lakers of last year, who were banged up, and LeBron was the only star out there for majority of the time, would have beat the Phoenix Suns of last year, and they was the first seed and the 8th seed, that would have been highly impressive to me. Because now you're talking about an 8th seed being the number 1 seed, and LeBron being out there with no other stars, being the Phoenix Suns with Chris Paul, Devin Booker, and DeAndre Ayton. So that would have been more impressive to me than that. So there are definitely levels to the upset. Like just because you're a higher ranked team losing to a lower ranked team is not all equal. Because the Cavs that year were a lower ranked seed than the Atlanta Hawks, but people probably picked the Cavs to win that game, win that series just because of LeBron James. And some people picked the Lakers to beat the Suns because of LeBron James. But if we was being honest, if LeBron would have beat that team and beat them in a series now, in a 7-game series, and AD was already down, and he have who else was hurt? Somebody else was injured, and then he was banged up himself. If he would have did that, that would have been highly impressive. So yeah, it's definitely levels to the upsets.
I think in retrospect from last year, I don't feel like that we would have been as surprised, especially since we've seen LeBron do that time and time again. Like, it's LeBron James, bro. Like, he's a GOAT, bro. Like, I think we do take him for granted sometimes, but at the same time, it's a level of expectation that we have for him. So it's like, if we really think, like, if he swept them, that would have been like you said, it's levels to it. So if we would have swept them, it'd be like, oh snap, like, they just swept them. Oh, okay. 7-game series, it'd been like LeBron being LeBron. 6-game series, LeBron being LeBron. 5 games, like, okay, took care of them boys, like gentlemen sweep, but it really depends on the storyline of it. But at the same time, I honestly feel like those 2 years aren't too far apart as far as storyline, because I don't think anybody took that Hawks team seriously as a contender to when it actually come out the East and be a championship winning team. Like, were they a good team, solid team? Yes. Regular season wise, postseason, the issue with teams like that sometimes is a gift and a curse, to where it's like it all comes down to, can you get a bucket in the postseason? And they didn't have anybody that you can consistently rely on to get you a bucket. And that's what the postseason comes down to, which is a gift and a curse, because on one end, all right, LeBron, Lakers, we need a bucket. Okay, LeBron, here you go. Suns, we need a bucket. Chris Paul, Devin Booker, here you go. Next, we need a bucket. Pick one. Let's roll dice and pick one. Like, you got options, bro. Like, any, mini, minor, mo, it doesn't matter. Like, one of y'all figure it out. Whoever got the best matchup, whoever got the hot hand. Warriors need a bucket. One of y'all figure it out. One of y'all two is Clay or Steph. Like, who rock, paper, scissors. It doesn't matter. All right, Hawks, we need a bucket. Let me drop a play real quick. Drop a play? What? Like, you don't have it in last minute. Like, if it's an out of bounds play, yes, but 9 times out of 10, here, take us to this promised land, brother. That's what the playoff basketball is about. So that's why the Hawks team was taking that serious. But on the other hand of it, the gift of it is the defense has to be honest on everybody, because you don't know who it's going to be. It could be Jeff Teague in a pick and roll with Al Horford. It could have been a play drawn up for Kyle Korver to come up and keep that junk out, and he wins the game. But because you don't know, you don't know. So it's the gift and the curse of it. So that's where nobody really took them as serious, to where it's like, oh, the Hawks gonna win. Similar to the Suns, to where it's like, did anybody really give them a real shot at coming out the West? Let's be honest. No, not many people did, just because they had the higher seed. Same thing with the Nuggets the past few years. Same thing with the Jazz the past few years. Like, the Bucks for years, we was like, or I was like, no. Like, I know you believe in your boys, but most of us was just like, no, they're not winning. Like, it's cute that you win the regular season. Nobody cares about regular season for great teams. Like, what can you do in the postseason? So when it comes down to the postseason, they weren't equipped for that because they didn't have any half court sets. It was give the ball to Giannis in full and transition fast break, let him hit his spin move with his euro, and go to the free throw line. And the free throw line was not his best friend. So it's like those weren't necessarily as big of upsets, or they wouldn't have been as big of upsets because we know at the end of the day, LeBron can't get it done. We know the higher ranked team was not the better team. The Lakers were hurt that last year. So it's like, if they, we all know if they're fully healthy, it would have been a 1, 2, 3, maybe 4 seed, but more likely 1 and 2 seed. So it's like, were they really the better team just because of where they rank, especially in NBA? Like, it's different in the NBA because the Lakers are a perfect example. I'm the better team on paper, the most talented team on paper, but because of this whole season, I've been banged up with my players, and LeBron doing what he want to do, playing or not playing. So he's gonna take games off and stuff. So they're gonna lose some games. So you easily fall from the first seed to fourth seed in the West like that, or fall from the fourth seed to the seventh seed like that. And then last year at the play-in tournament. So if you ain't one of them top few teams, now you really got to scrap and scramble for the last spot. And so the rankings in the NBA is a little bit tougher. In college, I could probably see more of an upset because when you see the Dukes and the Kansases and Kentuckys and UNC's losing to the 16th, 15th seed to some unknown small D1 school, it's like, oh, snap. Like, that's more of an upset in my mind. But 9 times out of 10, it goes back to my other point where it's the matchup. So it's like, dang, we had the team to beat you of what you're capable of doing. Or you just had a bad night. Your stars didn't show up. We didn't get your best punch. Because 9 times out of 10, if Duke, Kentucky, whatever gives you the best punch, like I probably remember maybe 2 years where that team relatively played their game and they won. I mean, they still lost. Maybe 2 years. And there's a reason why we don't see that because they're the better team for a reason. They don't get upset when they play the game. And so I just feel like it's tougher to completely upset a team when in the NBA when rankings aren't the full truth of who's the better team or not. Because it's going by, the regular season record. So if I didn't sit here and been hurt half the year, of course I'm gonna have a bad record, but I'm still a better team. All I gotta do is be healthy around March and April. That's all I care about. Make sure we gelling by in. We didn't worry about nothing else. College is a little bit different. I can see more of upsets in college, but for 9 times out of 10 in the program, I don't feel like it's really any real upset. College, maybe. I think there's more upsets in college than it is pro. I'll say that comfortably. Because you'll see any given night, when it's one game and that's all you get, it's tough. But I don't think NBA you really see any real upsets. So
I mean, you have a point because, like I said, there's no such thing as upset till there's something on the line. And in the NBA, when you have a 7-game series, uh, 7-game series lets you know who the better team was. Like most of the time, far and above lets you know who the better team was. If you get swept, they were the better team. You get beat in 5, they were the better team. You get beat in 6, they were the better team. You get beat in 7, it was kind of equal, or like we all fairly like evenly matched, but the better team pulled it out. But so I understand what you mean by that. Like the regular season, like I said, the regular seasons don't really mean much because sometimes it takes guys longer than others to gel with new teams and new additions, and injuries and all that play a factor. That's why I say there's no such thing as upset until there's something on the line because these games they mean something, but they don't mean nothing. You know what I'm saying? So I feel you on that. And then in the NBA, what decides a better team in the NBA really, especially when it comes to like a playoff team or a playoff matchup, who has the better players in the series? So let's say, let's think back to the Bucks and the Heat a couple years ago when the Bucks lost to the Heat in the playoffs. Because like I said, I roll with my boy Eric Tripp, but there were some people that knew the Heat would beat the Bucks because their size and their defense would cause Giannis to struggle, right? So let's go down the list of who the best players in that series was. Number one is Giannis, obviously. So then after Giannis, you argue between Jimmy Butler and Chris Middleton. All right, so we'll say for right now that Jimmy Butler was the better player in that series, at least during that year. So then after that, you go Chris Middleton third. Fourth, in that year, Bam Adebayo. Then fifth is between Tyler Hero and Brook Lopez. So that go either way. Then after that is Duncan Robinson. So the Heat got the majority of the better players. Like Giannis number one, then a Miami player, Bucks player, then two Miami players, and the Bucks player. It's like the Miami Heat had the better overall team when we look at it. But even though the Bucks were the higher seed, so but we look at it as if okay, Giannis is the better player, he's supposed to win, and then we consider that an upset. And that's just how it goes in the NBA because it's so like basketball so star driven in the NBA, and we've been kind of spoiled with LeBron. Like, oh, any team with LeBron good enough to go, and so that's part of it too. But that's just not always the case. Like everybody ain't LeBron, everybody ain't gonna put the team on their back and carry them to where they need to be. And we saw that with LeBron last year. Like LeBron past that point now where he could just carry a team the way he's supposed to be. Even now, he need help. Like the talent, especially in the West, you know, it's a different story in the West now too. But like nobody's really carrying teams like LeBron did in the past like 8-9 years. So that's just one of those things. Like every seed, like just because we are seated above each other does not mean that that we are the better team, like you said. So the upset really comes in when we talk about players and like who has the more talented team, who has the better overall team. And I feel like that's part of it. Like, and like you said, the Atlanta Hawks, that year with four All-Stars, they playing against LeBron James and the Cavaliers. At the end of the day, it's like, I need a bucket. Who I get the ball to? And I feel like the Hawks had no answer to that question. So it's about players at the end of the day in the league. And college is different because college is more about coaching. Like coaching is more important. Talent is obviously important too, but if the most talented team won every year, then Kentucky would have a lot more national championships.
Yep.
But that's not all it is in college. Like it's star driven in college because number one, guys are young. Coaching plays a lot more of a factor in it. And you know, anybody, like I said, anybody can beat you once. So that's part of it too. But at the end of the day, the better team is the one with the most to lose. And so that's where the upset comes into play to me. It's not all about seeding. You know, I say seeding just, you know, so people understand, you know, who the higher ranked team is. But at the end of the day, the better overall team is who has the most to lose. So that's where the upset comes in my opinion.
You know how the media push that, man. They're going to look at the rankings and who's number one versus who's number whatever. And it's like, oh, such and such upset such and such. But it's like, no, bro, they were the better team. Like this, y'all played too much into the rankings and stuff. But like, are you really looking at the game of what it is? LeBron James was hurt most of this year. Anthony was hurt most of this year. That's why they're not number 1, 2, or 3. That's literally the only reason why. It's not because they weren't the most talented team. But the media pushes that and make it seem like it's an upset. Oh, this is the first time we've seen a 6 seed beat this team in 90 years. And it's like, there's a reason why, bro. Like this. They were the better team for real. So it's like they should have won that. That's not really an upset. But anyway, I want to ask you this. Do you think that if we change the college system from one and done, not one and done, but like one game to let's say 3-game series, do you think that would change the upsets more, or would you still see similar outcomes?
It's funny you said that. I was actually talking to one of my coaches about this the other day. Where I was saying I wish that in the NCAA tournament they could do best 2 out of 3, and not the whole series, not the whole tournament, but Elite 8 maybe and down, or maybe just Final 4, just the last 2 rounds. I wish they could at least be best 2 out of 3 because I feel like we've been saying this whole time, anybody can beat you once. And, you know, we've seen multiple times like Final Fours and championships in college basketball been decided on some free throws. So I feel like, and then plus, if we go best 2 out of 3, that puts a lot on coaches too. Like that shows a lot more emphasis on who the better coaches in the league are too. Like if you could beat the team twice in a row in 2 close games, that's coaching. That ain't just being a better team. Like that's coaching because that means you not only did you make adjustments, you also had counter punches to the other team adjustments. So that's just how I feel. But we discussed that a while ago. But that would deter some upsets. Like I feel like so. Villanova was in the Final Four. They have a lot better chance of like proving they're the better team if they got to do it twice. Like, and then you know how it is. You know, you win one game, and like the other team fans gonna yell somebody cheated or the refs was horrible and this and that. A lot of things could be said in one game, but if it happened twice, it's supposed to happen. So that's kind of how I feel about it. So yeah, there might be less upsets, but in a way that might be bad for the sport. Like upsets kind of make the sport fun in a way, if you ask me. Like the possibility that the worst team might win or the team that we don't expect might win, I feel like that adds an element of surprise and fun to it. Like remember a couple years ago when Loyola Chicago made it to the Sweet 16? That was fun. Like, wasn't it? Like Loyola Chicago was in the Sweet 16 playing against Kentucky. And like we was out here like, yeah, man, Loyola Chicago, let's do it. Like, and nobody ever heard of them. So that just in my mind, that adds a little bit of element of fun to the sport and surprise. Like you can get beat any given night. But I feel like in the Final Four and the championship game, 2 out of 3 would help. Like that I feel like that would make us feel better. Like, all right, this is the better team. Like they deserve to win. In my mind. Like, how many championships in college basketball have you seen decided by like 8, 10 points or plus? Almost never. Like, the national championship is almost never a blowout. Like last year it was because Baylor beat the brakes off Gonzaga. Like
that was terrible.
Yeah, that was bad. But Baylor was a better team. Like, and it was a bad matchup for Gonzaga because Baylor was so tough, physical, and they defense like shut Gonzaga down. I don't think they was ready for it. But very rarely is there a national championship decided by a large margin. Usually it's like close games won by like 5 or less. So I just feel like that would be better for the sport if somebody had to do it twice. Let me just say that. They had to do it twice. I would love it at least. But, I don't think they'll change it no time soon. But I think that would kind of eliminate some of the upsets, quote-unquote upsets, in college basketball, but only in the Final Four. Only in the Final Four and below.
Yeah. I definitely don't see them changing anything Elite 8. I don't think anything before the Sweet 16 would be changed. So Sweet 16 and down, I don't think they'll touch that at all. I don't think they'll change the Elite 8 really. Like if they really do change anything, it'll be the Final Four and championship game. But it's a lot of money and a lot of other things that would have to. Honestly, I feel like if there was money to be made, a lot more money to be made, they'd definitely look at it. But I doubt it. But anyway, going back to Loyola Chicago for an example, right? They made it auto like the Sweet 16 or Elite 8, whichever one it was. So to get to the Sweet 16, you have to win twice, right? Is it 2 or 3? 3 times. So you have to win 3 times to get to the Sweet 16.
It's my fault. The Sweet 16 is 2 times. My fault.
Yeah, so it's 120 something, 64, 32.
Round 64 is the first round.
Yeah, so 64, then 32, and then Sweet 16. So to get to the Sweet 16, you have to win 2 games. So let's just say they played Duke first round, beat them for whatever reason. Next round, they playing what would be next? Like a 9th seed, 8th, 9th seed, whoever the winner that is, I think. So if you look at, like we said before, if you're a top seed, like 1 through 4, there's a range of a top seed. There's a range of a middle seed and there's a range of a bottom seed. So at some point, I've knocked off the head of the snake. Right. So at that point, anything after that, is that really an upset for me? Because you talk about the levels
Yeah.
of upsets. It's levels of it, remember? So now I've knocked out the top seed, right? So once I get past that, let's say that is an upset. I've upset the number one seed, right? We agree that that's an upset. Like we both agree on that. Once you get past that, is anything past that really an upset? Because now, like I just said, you're playing the 8th and 9th seed. Are you really that much better than me?
That's still an upset because, like in that case, I'm saying this is an extreme case because I want to say Loyola Chicago was a 16th ranked team or 15 or something like that. They was low,
Yeah.
but in that extreme case where the 16 seed knock off the number one seed, they still the 16th seed. Like they the last ranked team in this whole bracket. And I understand what you're saying. Like, okay, they beat the number one team, so anybody below that is like that's not a mismatch for them. Like that's not an upset, but it is because, like we said, anybody can beat you once. So they knock off number one seed. Crazy. All right, big game. But maybe somebody was hot. Maybe they just weren't on their game that day. This is a bad matchup for them, whatever. Now they play the next team. They beat them. Now it's like, okay. Legit. I feel like that second time they win, like, okay, they not messing around. This is a good team. Like, this ain't just awesome. Yeah, they got hot and they messed around and beat Duke. After the second time you do it, now it's like this is a legit team. So they both upsets. I don't care if they did knock off the head of the snake. Like it's less like a snake, more like that thing from Hercules where he cut the head off and two more grow back. That's college basketball. Like, yeah, he knocked out the number one seed, but they got it's only the round of 64. They got 4 more rounds. So every game they win, in my mind, is an upset. All the way to the national championship if they win it. So like if Loyola Chicago would have won it all, that just would have blew my mind. Like, and I was kind of rude for them at the end of the day because I was like, okay, North Carolina already been put out. That's my team at the gate, North Carolina, and then Alabama. But when they got put out, I was like, dang, boy, I was rooting for the Cinderella story. Loyola Chicago? Like, man, would have never thought. But every game they win, upset in my mind because, like, it's easy to do it once. Like we said, like, you can win one game. But if you could do it twice, 3 times, you legit at that point.
Oh man, I just can't shake the whole upset thing, man. Like I agree that our levels of upsets, I can say that, but like for the most part, especially talking about series, like like we talked about before, in the series there is no upset. The better team wins in the series. Like that's just how it is. In college, I don't think it's as much of an upset sometimes, just because, like you said, somebody be off, somebody get hurt, whatever. It's hard to win have the undefeated season or to go through the whole playoffs, the whole tournament and win. Like that's why college basketball has a certain level of excitement to it because any given night, anybody can lose. So with that in mind, is there a true upset? So in my mind, if you give your best punch and it's really a good game, you've won that. You can't say nothing. But if there's doubt in my mind, it's like, oh man, if he would have been hot, if he this would happen, that would have happened. It's too many holes in the game to where it's just like sometimes it's not really upset because like is that really the number one seed showing why they're number one seed or the number two seed showing why they're number two seed? When you play like the 16 seed, like that was a 16 versus 16 game, like that was terrible. Like you didn't play a game, even if you like for Shelton, for example. Yeah, we got our shots off, we got into the attempts that we wanted, we got into our offense, we weren't making shots. The number one seed makes their shots. You know what I'm saying? But the human component comes into where it's like, hey, I can't make my shot. I'm getting every look, every shot feels good. It's just not my night. So it's like, hey, we did the best we could. Y'all won. Congrats. See y'all to the next round. So in my mind, it's just like, if you're not getting that best punch from that best team, then it's hard for me to really sit here and say that that was a true and pure upset. So that's my last words on it.
I kind of understand what you say. I guess we just got to agree to disagree, man. But my last words on it gonna be a phrase my old junior college coach, Coach Tommy Suits, used to tell us all the time. When we played bad teams, at least, if they can field scholarships and put a team together, then they can beat you. That used to be a thing, especially when we played teams that were considered not good or like we should beat this team. That's something he used to always tell us. If they can field scholarships, put a team together, they can beat you. Because at the end of the day, any team like in college basketball, let me say that. This don't really apply to the NBA, but any team in college basketball that can field scholarships, at least one person on their team. Like they go, and like I say this to people all the time. When you play in college basketball, every team gonna have at least one guy that's a bucket. Like at least one, no matter how good or bad the team is. Good teams have several buckets, several guys that can do what needs to be done. Bad teams might have just one. But every college basketball team that can field a scholarship, put a team together, somebody on that team is good. Like the team itself as a whole might not be good, but somebody on that team is worse on. And so, like at the end of the day, if they good enough and the team play well enough that day, they can beat you. That is, and so that's the dice you roll when you play. So you any given night, you might get beat. That's just the way it is. That's part of why we love the game. It's like, hey, we come out every night locked in, and we try not to let it be us. Don't let it be you.
Yep.
Getting upset. And if you the lower talented team, we coming to beat that team. We coming to knock this team out. Like, yeah, people saying y'all better than us. People saying y'all the best team in the league, or saying y'all gonna win the championship or whatever. We ain't hearing none of that. We here to win. We here to knock them out and go home. All we came for. And so that's why we love the sport. So in my mind, there is such thing as upset, and that's why we play.
We're gonna have to agree to disagree, man. Because I mean, like I said before, I think there are certain levels of upset. But for the most part, man, it's just kind of like you said, man. Like on any given night, somebody can win. Somebody has to win. Somebody has to lose. So on any given night, that guy who's a bucket, he just it's his night. We going toe for toe. Hey, whoever wins. Salute to you. But as far as like a upset being done, as far as like on paper we should have won and we lost. Why did you lose? We gave our best shot. We did what we could. They just had the better hand on us. Hey, that's an upset then. But as far as us not playing up to par and up potential, and only reason I could say that too, if you're not playing up to par because of what I'm doing, now that's another thing too. Now
I was just getting ready to ask you.
Yeah.
Like, what if we just locked them up? Like,
then I give you that too. But not to discredit, like going back to what I was saying before, not to discredit what you guys were doing, because once again, it's not that you just giving them easy buckets and layups. Like it's give and take to it. Like, you know how it is sometimes where you've been fighting all game to get a good shot off. Like you posting up and you've been struggling to get a good move off, and you finally get one. It's like, oh snap, I'm finally free and open, and you rush it because you're expecting that. That's because his defense on the back end doing that. So yeah, you might have finally got the shot off that you wanted, but mentally you weren't ready for that shot. That has to do because of the defense. And so it's like, I'm not trying to discredit defense or the lower seeded team, the underdogs, whatever. What I'm saying is it gets to a point to where it's like you have to credit the other team for something. I'm not trying to discredit the lower seed team at all. But if the reason why we won and the reason why you lost is because of us, upset. And if you played a bad game because of us, we locked you up and just you weren't doing anything, upset. But now if we got your best punch and we countered with our best punch and we won, upset. But as far as you not showing up to what you had to do, not to discredit the other team, but it's not as big of a hit. It's not as, detrimental to overcome. You know what I mean? So if you come out to jump and it's just like struggle, the good team or the higher ranked team is struggling versus the lower seed team doing their thing, it's a little different. So if it's really a true pound for pound drag out fight, then you completely, utterly won and you've upset. But boxing is a different sport than basketball, man. So that pound for pound stuff is a little different in basketball. Like if the AI Sixers would have beat the Lakers and Kobe and Shaq was averaging 30, upset. But there's a
But
reason why AI couldn't upset them.
see, that's the thing, man. That's what I think. Like, I see what you're saying, but that's one thing I feel like you're not looking at. It's like they are the better team for a reason. If somebody's more talented than your team and they give you their best punch, your best punch should not be enough. Like that should be the way it is. But like if we are the better team and we come out, we hit them in the mouth and we like, how some teams are like, we come out and hit them in the mouth early and they shut down or if they get rattled and then we win based off that, I feel like it's unfair for you to look at them and be like, they just ain't come with it. Like, that making us seem like we ain't doing that. You know what I'm saying? Like,
no, that's what I'm saying. I'm not trying to discredit it, but I'm saying at the same time, it's like sometimes it's not because of that team. You know what I mean? Like sometimes the other team literally just doesn't have it that night. Like you've seen sometimes where it's like that dude's out of it. Like not to discredit the team, but it's like it's real situational. But like overall, sometimes that upset team just had the better night that night. The higher ranked team didn't have it that night. So on paper, they're bound to lose at some point. And it's just like the worlds collided and the planets aligned to where it's just like it's just bound to happen. It's not to discredit the lower ranked team and make it seem like you won because of some default. I'm not trying to make it seem like that, but it's like it's bound to happen at some point. I know it sounds like that, but it's like it's bound to happen at some point that a team loses. And if it wasn't you playing to a certain level, you could have still lost that game. So I'm not trying to discredit what you've done, but at the same time, it's like it's not as big of an upset. Like I said, it's levels to it. So it's like it's a line right here what upset is. It's upset, not upset. So down here, you might have not been upset because how the game was. And I'm saying like right here, it's like, yeah, you upset, but it's like, not as big of a hit. So it's like on paper, yes, you should have lost that game. But when you literally looking into the depths of it, it's like, okay, you won the game. That was a good game. But upset, I think more of my upset is more of like 0 to 100. That's why I think more of an upset for me personally. And for you, it's like, okay, 0 to 10, 50 to 60s, 90s to 100s. And so for me, I think of upset. I'm thinking like, oh, snap, they should not have won that game at all. So it's like, if you have a chance, that's what I'm saying. So if you leave the door open, there's a chance. You give that team a chance, or they're breaking through that door regardless. That's more of an upset.
I just can't rock with it, man. Maybe it's because I've been the underdog before. Like it's just.
I rock with underdogs. Man. I rock with it, but I've rarely been a top dog. Like I'm not trying to discredit all that. Like I'm thinking about that mindset too. So I'm not trying to discredit underdogs because that's literally been me my whole life. You feel me? So not trying to discredit it at all.
Look, like we said, man, maybe we just gotta agree to disagree. But I got everything I need to say. Like you anything else you want to add before we get out of here?
No, that's it, man.
All right, well, this has been another episode of the BeBall Jones podcast. We appreciate y'all for listening. Y'all get in the comments and whatnot and let us know what y'all think. Let us know who you agree with. What do you consider an upset? Give us y'all definition. Y'all join the conversation with us. We always willing to listen. And we appreciate guys who want to add their 2 cents in, So, but that'll do it for us. Be sure to like and subscribe and share. And be sure to follow Brian on all social medias at BeBall Jones. That's BeBall Jones on all social media platforms. And then follow me on Twitter at NellyH34 and Nelson Haskett on Facebook. And we keep the conversation going over there. So y'all just let us know. Y'all make sure y'all follow us and keep it going. But with that being said, we appreciate y'all for listening again. And without further ado,